Greetings. My name is Sekou Franklin, and I'm the president of the National Conference of Black Political Scientists. We have an exciting panel and dialogue about this historic election. I want to thank you for joining us today. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge NCOBPS executive council members who are involved in this panel, who are also watching this and viewing this wonderful dialogue. I want to recognize our Vice President, Tiffany Willoughby O'Rourke, and our Executive Director, Kathy Stromal Golden. And I also want to acknowledge our past presidents of NCOBPS. NCOBPS was established in 1969, ironically, just a few months after the inauguration of Richard Nixon. Our members are engaged in groundbreaking research on a variety of topics, and our members are scholar activists. That is, our members are making their research relevant to addressing under-resourced communities and unheard voices. This panel is titled Perspectives on Blacks and Voter Mobilization on the Eve of Election 2020. The panel offers snapshots of important topics in this election. I want to make sure I bring up a couple of other items if you can. NCOBPS, just as a reminder, we have our national conference in March of next year. It's a virtual conference. We're encouraging attendees and others to submit papers. The deadline is November 13th. And if you're from a HBCU, we have stipends for you to attend the conference as well. And each of you who are signed up for this event will get an announcement about that after the session. This panel is titled, as mentioned earlier, Perspectives on Blacks and Voter Mobilization on the Eve of Election 2020. The panel offers snapshots of important topics in this election. Our moderator is Dr. Desiree Pedescleaux. She's the Dean of Undergraduate Studies and an Associate Professor of Political Science at Spelman College. She's also the past president of NCOBPS, having served from 2007 to 2009. I'm going to turn the event over to her, and I'm going to take care of the logistics and other matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Sekou. Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm honored to serve as moderator of this important discussion on the eve of the 2020 election. I'm equally honored to be joined by these distinguished panelists. I'll briefly introduce each of them, and then we will hear from them in that order. Dr. Jarvis Hall has been a member of the political science faculty at North Carolina Central University in Durham since 1995. He served as chair from 1998 to 2005, and from 2006 to 2015, he was the director of the Institute for Civic Engagement and Social Change, which he founded at North Carolina Central. His research and teaching interests include Black politics, public policy, social movements, and grassroots politics. Dr. Sharon Wright Austin is professor of political science at the University of Florida. Her research focuses on African American political behavior. She is the author of several books, including Race, Power, and Political Emergence in Memphis, The Transformation of Plantation Politics in the Mississippi Delta, and the Caribbeanization of Black Politics. Dr. Wright Austin has a forthcoming edited book entitled Political Black Girl Magic: The Elections and Governance of Black Female Mayors. Dr. Stephanie Williams is a special assistant to the provost and executive vice president at the University of South Florida. Her research specializes in American conservatism and race from massive resistance in the 1950s to the Trump era. Her research includes the Southern Strategy, Reaganism, and racial radicalization of the Republican Party. Dr. Gladys Mitchell-Walthauer is Associate Professor of Public Policy and Political Economy in the Department of African and African Diaspora Studies at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. She is a political scientist specializing in Afro-Brazilian political behavior, Black racial identity, and comparative racial politics. She is the co-coordinator of the U.S. Network for Democracy in Brazil. She has published several books, including The Politics of Blackness, Racial Identity, and Political Behavior in Contemporary Brazil. You can read her recent commentary about the 2020 election in the New York Times. Dr. Chris Whit is Vice President of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion at Creighton University. In this role, he leads collaborative efforts to foster diversity and inclusion across the university and the surrounding community. Prior to his arrival at Creighton in February 2018, he spent over a decade at Augustana College, where he was chair of the political science department, co-founder of the Africana Studies program, and founding director of the Center for Inclusive Leadership and Equity. For his work, Dr. Whit was awarded the National Conference of Black Political Scientists 2013 Anna Julia Cooper Teacher of the Year Award and their 2017 Fannie Lou Hamer Outstanding Community Service Award. Dr. Byron Orry is professor of political science at Jackson State University. His research interests are in political psychology, biopolitics, and race and politics. He has published numerous articles and book chapters, and his research has been supported by the National Science Foundation, the Palestinian American Research Center, and the Academic Exchange. He has served on several editorial boards, including State Politics and Policy Quarterly and the Journal of Race and Policy. In 2003, Dr. Orry was selected as a Gallup Professor by the Gallup Organization. Naja Baptist is Assistant Professor of Political Science at the University of Arkansas. Dr. Baptist's research examines how citizens use music to understand politics and political influencers to mobilization. His current research explores the role of race and gender in the online interactions between President Trump and Congresswomen of color. And now, without any further ado, let's hear from our panelists.